Call animal control to order. Everybody should have a set of minutes in your hand.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. So next, does anybody have any public comment for animal control? No? Okay, just double check. All right, so no public comments, so we're gonna move on. So I think the next thing on the agenda is to discuss the possibility of a new building. So I'm gonna hand this over to Director Gatlin.
You don't do it before? Want to do the report first.
Oh, yes, we can do the report. I apologize. I'm getting ahead of myself, can you tell?
You excited?
I am excited. So,
You
yeah,
guys have a copy of that too?
this conversation is a long time coming. So,
Some copy?
oh, sure.
I thought you might want an extra.
Right.
I thought you might want an extra. So, you have a copy of the report in front of you. We had a pretty good January. We see in there, we transferred 8. That is, 8 puppies out of 1 litter. We got lucky there. Transfers have dried up. Rescues are full everywhere. It is the current state of things in animal welfare. We've been really lucky at this point. Adoptions are decent. We've still got folks coming in. We still have some support, but I don't have too many places to lean on right now. And we're full. So we did have some snow days. We're thankful for that new 4-wheel drive pickup truck. We were able to get people into the shelter and do shelter maintenance and those kind of things and take care of everything without having to put employees in harm's way. We do operate 7 days a week, and it doesn't matter if it's raining or snowing or we've got to be there, and we do animal care even in bad weather. So we had volunteers out there in freezing rain walking dogs. So we have to operate in that, and then that about does it for my report.
All right. So, do you have any questions?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, report's approved. Okay, so now we'll move on to the exciting part, I think.
Okay.
Yes?
So I started in animal control in January, and so we're at 1 year and a couple of weeks that I've been there. During that time, I have done a lot of research. I've educated myself on shelter operations, and I know that when I took this job, we talked about the need to expand and to have a new facility, and it was time to move forward. Our facility is, I think, 23 years old, and we currently have 12 double-sided dog runs. So they are 4 by 8 with a guillotine door in the middle, and then we have 6 single dog runs that are 4 by 4. By current standards, a dog should be able to be within a living space, be able to turn around without touching the walls, be able to eat, sleep, and defecate in separate areas. That's oversimplifying, but that's basically what it is. Unfortunately, the way it is now, with our 12 double-sided, most of the time we have the door down and we use those as 2 singles. We have an average, our average population is 25.5 dogs at any one time. So today we have 30. There's 30 in there today. But our average on today is 25.5. We work really hard to get them evaluated, to make decisions about if a dog needs to be euthanized. We try to make those as quickly as possible. The dogs that are savable or adoptable, we've put in new programs where we are trying to modify behaviors and make them more marketable. We have a veterinarian that comes in and we look for health issues and those type of things. And we're expanding our marketing, expanding those things to get them out. We work with rescues around the country. We are a certified animal control agency in the state of Pennsylvania. A lot of people look at us kind of funny, But we got certified in the state of Pennsylvania, so I can ship dogs to rescues in Pennsylvania, and they can be adopted there. That is a great thing, and it worked really good until about 2 months ago, and it dried up. They're full. And so we are trying everything we can do to get them out of the shelter. We've added folks, and we've added training, and we are currently doing the industry best practices. I feel like we're at the top tier of what the industry expects us to do. I think that's what you folks want. I think that's what the public wants, and that's definitely what I want. And so I feel comfortable that we've put the programs in place. We have a volunteer program now that we're logging a couple hundred hours a month of volunteers coming in, walking dogs, doing play groups, doing the things necessary to help us. We're working every day on expanding that and the community outreach stuff we do. It is time for a new shelter. I went in May to the Humane Society of the United States trade show and educational convention, whatever you call it, in San Antonio, and I went to a lot of classes, met a lot of folks, and I went to a day-long seminar about constructing new shelters. And the industry top people, the people that just design these type things, put this on, and it was an eye-opening experience. That's why I came in 2 months ago and said we need to hire an expert. At that meeting, I met lots of folks, and I talked to lots of folks and basically interviewed them. Out of that bunch, I picked a company called Design Learned Incorporated, and we have tonight with us Scott Learned, who's coming from Connecticut, Norwich, Connecticut. I think he said he left at 3 o'clock in the morning. So if he falls asleep, we just need to wake him up. But I've talked with him, and we've gone over what we need. He's looked at our program. I've kept him busy today. He got here, and he's toured our facility, asked a lot of questions. He has been to the proposed site that we've talked about buying, looked that building over. He's met with Robert Baines, our building director, and he's met with the mayor today about what we've got going on. And so he's come up with some prices. He's come up with a couple different proposals. We have 2 of them sitting out here in front of you, and these are concepts. These are not built by drawings. These are not necessarily what we're going to build. This just gives you an idea of what we're talking about square footage wise and capacity. What it would take to bring this building into spec and to add on to that building and what we're talking about doing. Building is really expensive, and I've been shocked at how much it costs. I was shocked when the road commission said they wanted $1.5 million for that building. But you know what? I've done some research. That's a bargain. We couldn't build that building and buy that property for anywhere close to that. Scott's looked at it today and come back with a really good report that the building's in better shape than he had hoped, and so that's very encouraging. The building was built to really good standards, and it's got some things in it that lend itself to being animal friendly, and so that's a good thing to hear. And I think I'm confident in what he's saying. I know I come from a time, I worked for the county for 19 years, and I remember when we hot seated patrol cars. In other words, we ran a patrol car 24 hours a day. When the first shift came in, they just turned that car over to second shift, and that car kept running. So I know what it's like for us not to have money, and the only thing I can say is that I know what being frugal is about, and we will not spend money we don't need to spend. He's already experienced that with me today. We've had some talks about what we're going to do and what we're going to bring. We've got equipment there that is good and usable, and we're going to transfer it from that building over. We're not just going to buy new equipment that we already have. And so I want y'all to feel confident that from that perspective, we're not going to ask for anything we don't need. With all that, I think I'm going to let Scott take over and tell you a little bit about the concepts that he's come up with.
Well, thank you all very much. I appreciate your time and the opportunity here. Oops, my computer fell asleep. See, this is the problem.
The computer's tired too.
Just a quick bit about us. Yes, I lecture every year at Animal Care Expo for the Humane Society and a number of other organizations. I sit on a code committee for the National Fire Protection Association for animal housing, and I've published design and engineering, and I've been doing animal care for 30 years. We are one of fewer than half a dozen companies in the U.S., architecture and engineering firms, that do animal care exclusively, but we're much better. One thing that does set us apart, though, and this is true, is that my friends and colleagues in the industry are all architects, and all they do is architecture. We have architecture and engineering in-house. As a matter of fact, I am a licensed mechanical engineer and a licensed electrical engineer in Tennessee, and 44 other states. And we work all over the U.S. and Canada. So we have in addition to the architectural and planning perspective, we also have a strong understanding of things like mechanical systems and odor control and humidity control, and how that plays into these systems. For all of our projects, and we do a lot of municipal projects like this, we start by doing a program. I also want to emphasize that we owe Steve a final report, but I wanted to see the building first. So that's almost complete, and presumably Steve will share that with you. And it will have everything we're talking about tonight. It'll have the concept plans, it'll have the program, it'll have our recommendations, it'll have my opinion of probable cost. So they'll be able to look at all of that. From a programmatic point of view, this is pretty lean. Even before today, we worked with Steve to minimize what was absolutely necessary in terms of rooms, spaces, food preparation, laundry, all the essentials, but no extras. And initially we had looked at clinical space and we took it out because we didn't have room for it. This is an exercise we go through with all of our clients, both public and nonprofit. We have to get these buildings as efficient as possible. The other thing that I want to say in terms of being good stewards of public money is that it's not a matter of, whether we build a Cadillac or a Chevy. I hate the car analogy, but I always tell clients, you don't need a Cadillac or a Chevy. What you need is a truck. An animal care facility is a very tough building. It's getting cleaned with accelerated hydrogen peroxides. It has dogs going through it that are, animal claws are very hard on surfaces. There's humidity in these buildings. There's just a lot of environmental issues that require the building to be very well made and very tolerant. Otherwise, the building won't last. And I can tell all of you, 20 to 25% of our work in any given year is remediation work. And that's going in sometimes on brand new buildings and helping people get out of problems that they got into. Now, Steve mentioned that I was positive on the existing building, and that's rare. Most of the time I look at existing buildings and they are not well suited to animal care. Sometimes it'll cost more to fix it than it would to build a new one. In this particular case, the building is all concrete block. The concrete block goes all the way up to the roof with all the walls. That is extremely unique. That's actually how we would design a new shelter for noise control and environmental control. So I was very pleased to see that. The building's also in very good condition. There's a few, if you've all been in there, there's a few flooring issues here and there. There's a couple of rooms with carpeting that we would change, but by and large, there's a lot we can work with. So I had my architectural designer, I'll start with this one, look at the program and design a building. And this is a building that if Steve walked into right now, it wouldn't meet his existing purposes with no room for growth. The reason we sized it this way was to meet the budget that we were trying to target. This one is a little bit larger, has 10 more dog capacity, has a meet and greet room, is probably on the higher end, but is better suited to you long-term. This one, just for orientation, this is the existing building right here. And the same over there, and there's a very similar. This is all new construction to the back. As Steve mentioned a minute ago, these are conceptual designs. They're intended to illustrate how the program could work. Once we get into construction documents, then we're gonna finalize and refine the plan and, you know, the corridors and all of the practical aspects of it. Just to briefly take you through, we kept all of the wall almost everything in the existing building remains as it is. We did, on the smaller version, take this room and make it into a puppy room. But by and large, these spaces can be pretty well used as they are, with minor cosmetic and finish changes. Steve asked for a cat room. It is a flex room. It could be used for cats or dogs.
What?
These, when we designed the mechanical systems and the architectural systems for these interiors, every one of these animal spaces is uniquely isolatable. And so you could use one of these areas for healthy dogs one week, and it could be used for sick dogs another week, and that would be fine as long as you clean it between populations. And then typically this would have its own zone as well.
How many dogs does this building hold?
So this one holds, in total, 24 healthy dogs and 10 intake dogs. 10 intake dogs here, 24 healthy dogs here. This one holds 10 intake dogs and 34 healthy. Slightly larger. These come out here. We added the puppy room here, and we added a meet and greet room here. That's really the only.
So each one of these is for one dog.
That's correct.
So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30,
No,
35.
this is one dog right here.
Well, then what is this?
Those are for small dogs. They don't necessarily need the back-to-back because they meet the proximity
Okay.
requirements in the cage. But under the ASV, that's the Association of Shelter Veterinary Guidelines, a dog should have a place to eat and sleep and a place to eliminate. So, and then all of us in the animal care industry know that if you have a crisis, you know, somebody brings in 30 dogs, you can always close the guillotines temporarily and use both sides. So it does give you a little bit of the ability to, you know, overuse the space if you need to temporarily. Beyond that, Steve will recall we minimized office space, staff areas. We did keep the break room. This building was also great because it's got existing features in it that can be effectively used immediately. We added some things that you don't have now, like a behavior evaluation room, so you can bring a dog in and assess it. And then this multi-purpose room is going to get a lot. Could be used for people. It could be used for animals. Could be used for working with a dog for training. Our plan is also to do 3 outside areas that are roughly 10 by 15. That may vary when we design it, but the other thing that we have now is a sally port that's designed so animals can be brought in. The truck can be brought in to the sally port. The door's closed on the front, and then you have a secure discharge for the animals into the shelter. They can't get away.
Just a question. Is this the way you want it, or do you want like a pass-through where you didn't have to back a vehicle in?
No, in talking in the limitations that we have a power line easement that runs across here, runs across here. So we have some design limitations, and there's some other things that we can do. But I think just backing in like that's fine. We don't really need a pass through.
Would you say this room was for?
So this would be more like isolation or quarantine. So a dog does not belong to us initially. When we pick it up as a stray, we have a certain period of time that it needs to be on hold. Or if a dog is held in isolation as part of a court case, we would like to have an area to keep them away from the public. Right now we don't. Those dogs are in with other dogs, and it's, if the public wants to look at one, they have to pass by where a dog that's held on quarantine is. This area would be adoptable dogs. Or so if you came to the shelter and said, I want to adopt a dog, you talk to Miss Paula up front, she would direct you back into here. These would be open access, people to come in and be able to look at the dogs that we have and pick out what they want. We've got areas they could bring them up to talk with them, or you could take one outside to an area for introduction.
So they'd actually be able to walk through there and
Yes. Also, while we're doing our program, like our things that we do with volunteers, the way these are all modular. We're going to buy these from a company. They're not built in place, and they're not concrete block. They're stainless steel and fiberglass reinforced plastic, and they have operational guillotine doors that are operational from both sides. So if we had all the dogs on one side and we wanted to get one out without causing an issue with all the other dogs, you just go to this side, raise the guillotine door, take that dog out. None of the other dogs see it. It reduces stress and anxiety within the shelter, and it quietens the place down dramatically. The design that they do makes a huge difference in the complete environment of the shelter. The days of walking in one where they're all barking, like if you go in now, today we toured our shelter, we had to go out into the office area to be able to talk, because they get fired up pretty quick. They all want to go out, they all want to play. And so in this environment, we'll be able to go into these areas and not have that happen. If we do, it may just be this two dogs, and these dogs won't be able to hear it because they're isolated from the other in there. This is just a much more modern way. It's much more user-friendly.
Is this an outdoor area in between?
No.
Separation?
That's just a hallway.
So everything's inside.
Yes, everything is inside. We're backing up to the county fairgrounds. Sound abatement is a big deal, priority number one. And so our programs take the dogs out for walks and for play yard and things like that. But the dogs live indoors. That is fairly standard within the industry now. I started looking at this, I thought everything needed to be indoor, outdoor. But after going through the classes I've been through and looking at Dr. Pisano from University of Florida, her recommendations, she inspects a lot in this area. She just did recommendations for Sumner County, and I watched that whole thing. And this is what they recommend. And correct me if I'm wrong. This, even when I talked to his staff, they recommended this type of living situation too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, indoor-outdoor runs engender a lot of barking and a lot of stress. We employ something called Fear-Free. All of my design staff are Fear-Free certified. And, we do smaller groupings. We minimize olfactory, auditory, and visual stimulation. As Steve said, you want to have situations where the staff, if they have to go in, they have minimal contact with dogs. And cats is true as well, actually. We never design a building where you have to walk through one animal area to get to another. It's always, everything is as independent as possible. And even on this larger one, we may refine this a bit in the final one. If we go this route, we illustrated
You
the
guys
total
want to go back?
quantity, but, we'd probably
that up here?
divide that, actually.
So one of the things also that was very important when we started this, and when I talked to them, that one of the requirements is we have 8 personnel, including me, and we don't need to add more people. Adding those folks costs money, and I get that. Y'all were generous enough to give us the extra people last year. We've got them trained, and we feel like that we have the adequate staff to man this facility right here today. We're not asking to add more folks. We think that in this shotgun design here, front to back, is important in that we have adoption hours and it's open to the public. Ms. Paula up front, she will be able to look at a camera and see these areas here. She'll meet people at reception and she can send them straight back. These dogs are already cleared, and so people can come back and interact with the dog. They won't be able to get it out by themselves, but if they want to come back here and look, they can come back and look and walk through. She can see what's going on, and these other doors are key fobbed access, so so a public person would not be able to get anywhere that wasn't authorized, and we could do that with a minimum of staff. The other thing you see is a whole lot more square footage than we have now, but these are dramatically easier to care for. The finishes are better. In each one of these areas, you see a funny looking thing that looks like a cutting board. That's actually a flushable mop sink. It looks like a square commode. And so, it's something that I had not seen before when I've built houses, but we will no longer have to carry solids out or have a cart for that. They will scoop and clean and everything will go out. We have adequate sewer at that area, and that's a big deal in that industrial area. We have industrial sewer, power, and water there. And so solids can all be flushed, and cleaning time of this area right here, even though it's twice the size or 3 times the size of what we have now, would roughly be the same as we have now, and require the same amount of personnel. So our care was a big deal when we looked at this, because I knew we didn't need to add more people. So we've really taken that into consideration in design.
Yeah, each one of these would have trench drains at the backs of the runs. They have pressurized hose fitting with metered chemical disbursement at the hose reel. So a person can go and scoop the solids, lay down the disinfectant, give it contact time, and just go back and rinse it off. It's very fast, and it's also minimal contact for the staff. I mean, cleaning dog kennels is not fun. So, we try to make it as easy as possible.
One of the other things that was really important is that I didn't want to build a 5-year or a 10-year or even a 20-year building. And during our conversation, more than once it came up that this was a 50-plus year building. There is the opportunity with the 3.5 acres that are there to build on in any direction. There may be a point where this power line that feeds roads next door, feeds their shop building, we may have to bury that power line or move that power line, but I don't think that's not a gigantic operation or a huge investment. It's overhead right now, but I think moving it would not be a big deal. Then that would be in the future. So this is something that could be added on to pretty easy. So I think this is something that fits Wilson County's needs, at least for the rest of my lifetime, and beyond. And so the only other thing that I can add that I think is really important is I think we see nationwide, and he touched on this a little bit, the states that are enacting these laws. I know the HSUS legislative representative for Tennessee, and she mentions this every time she goes to Capitol Hill in Nashville. We will get regulations requiring these things in place in the next 10 years. I guarantee it, probably in the next 5 years. This building will meet all of those.
Yeah, that's an important factor.
What's the price of it? Oh, you don't know exactly.
What cost? Nice segue.
All about the money.
Yeah. So a couple of things, I want to preface this. But as we were chatting before the meeting started, and I mentioned that between 2016 and 2021, 2022, we had such stability in these things that I would be able to nail the cost of a vet hospital or a shelter very successfully. And we were very confident. And then in the last 2 or 3 years, we've seen construction costs just escalate ridiculously, and not uniformly around the country. So these numbers don't work that well everywhere. So I looked at 3 Midwest, if you will, projects that we just completed. One is Franklin. We have a lot of data, by the way, on all of our projects, so know what animal shelters cost for real. Franklin County Humane Society, which was finished in 2023, actual cost was, I can't see, 4.7 million for 11,000 square feet. That was, correcting for inflation, that would be $434 a square foot today. I'm talking new construction costs, including site work and what the contractor charged. We just had, a couple months ago, we designed an animal control investigation building for SPCA of Texas. in Dallas. That came in at 21 million, or about $496 a square foot. And we just finished conceptual design for the Cedar Bend Humane Society in Waterloo, Iowa. That came in at 22 million, and that was $554 a square foot, although the contractor had a 10% contingency in there. So if you took that out, that number was almost identical to the number we saw for Texas, just about $500 a square foot. So right now, in this area of the country, we're seeing $430 to $500 a square foot.
That's gonna be, how much is the new construction, how many square feet versus the remodel?
So the new construction, let's talk about the larger one here, is 6,300 square feet of new construction. That building alone, I would put at 2.9 million, plus or minus 15%. And that plus or minus 15% is very important. I am not saying, I'm telling you, it could be anywhere in that range. Our projects are predictable, but they're not all identical. The existing building, we were careful to pick and choose. So Steve asked me to carry $100,000 for the auditorium repairs. If you've been in there, it's got that raised area and a soffit around the inside. I think, Steve, what was the roofing on that? 40.
He said, yeah, 42. So we got a cost, it needs a re-roof. And Robert got a cost from a local contractor that we could use as a figure, and he got a cost of 42,000. And that's a roof over, they say they can do that one time on this particular type of roof. It is recommended. They say it'll last. So I'm not a professional when it comes to those type of roofs. It's a not a flat, but pretty close to membrane type roof.
So I carried that. I carried interior ceiling replacement, interior wall noise control. So the building has concrete block walls, which are tremendous for noise transmission. So you don't hear animals barking from one room to another. But that material is not good for reverberation control. So you don't want to be in a kennel where it's deafeningly loud. So we still have to do better quality ceilings and sometimes wall panels around the upper perimeter of the rooms. So I carried $45,000 for that. Some interior flooring, it's just a budget number. A lot of the flooring is actually pretty good, but I carried $22,000 for repairs where needed. Plumbing and cleaning system changes, especially for areas that we are adding some cleaning capabilities. It's pretty minor. The HVAC systems in this building are at the end or beyond their useful life. And they are also very poorly suited to animal care. So, and on top of that, the HVAC systems in that building right now do not have any fresh air coming in, except through the doors. And that wouldn't even meet code standard today for human occupied building. You have to have dedicated fresh air. So things like appropriate amounts of fresh air and filtration, dehumidification control, separate zoning for the different animal areas. I'm assuming a full rework of the mechanical HVAC system, and I carried $235,000 for that. The electric service main is too small to carry the new HVAC plus the new building, so I carried some money for that. All together, I have $616,000 at the moment for the existing building. Equipment direct costs. I did, Steve, I did include the cat enclosures here, but I'm going to take them out because we agreed we would use the caging that you have now. So the new dog enclosures for 44, I'm going to say probably around 220,000. And I have a budget of 200,000. It may be conservative at this moment, but for equipment, 2 commercial washers, 2 commercial dryers, refrigerator in the food prep room. There may be a few other things. Steve has some things that we'll bring from the old shelter, like the new grooming tub, the grooming table, the scale. We have a few things that can come over. 3 outside yards would have artificial turf, drainage, and canopies. That's relatively light. That's $23,000. And then we have design fees. So we do internally, and Steve beat me up on this, so I want you all to know that. I'm already below what my project manager is gonna be happy about. But we will do the building conceptual design, all of the construction documents. If you've ever seen construction documents, they don't look like this. It's a big, thick set of plans and specifications. We manage our projects from start to finish. So even after you have a contractor, my project manager, Hannah, will run a weekly call with the contractors. She will stay on top of submittals, mock-ups. I will do periodic inspections of the building. The only thing we don't do is civil and structural engineering. So I talked to Steve about that. That would be something that, the county would have to either use, if you have an on-call contract, there might be somebody available, or we would just find somebody locally. Our plan would be to do a pre-engineered structure, so it would be minimal, minimal on-site design work. No, it will simplify the construction for the contractor. They won't be a custom-built building.
And it will go up like.
It'll go up quick. So all told, for this building, including the design costs and
Is it the larger one or the other
the
one?
larger one, larger building, design costs, all the corrections to the existing building and the construction of the new building, all the animal care equipment is at 4.2 million. And again, I'm gonna say that's plus or minus $600,000.
And that is on top of purchasing the building to begin with.
That's on top of purchasing the building to begin with. If you did the smaller building, same analysis, 10 fewer dog runs and 4,400 square feet instead of 6,300 square feet for new construction, that would drop that to 3.3 million plus or minus $500,000. And I'm gonna publish all this for you in the report, so you'll be able to see it.
Was it about $1 million less?
It's just about $1 million less, yeah. And that's pretty much what I would expect for a 2,200 square foot difference.
And I know you said before that you can build and expand later too. But what's the difference in building it now as far as the cost, or say 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road we expand, which I know.
If we built this 5 years ago, it'd be a third less, or maybe even more. Look at what construction costs have done in the last 5 years, just around here, and
No, I understand that. I'm just trying to figure out, when you build it, is it gonna be built in a way that you can expand it easy? Or is it gonna be like a totally separate building?
So
I know everything's gonna be higher.
typically though, I will say this, we do a lot of projects that are phased. That's very common in our industry. Usually in this case, the capacities here are pretty much what you need. Like I said, the smaller building is literally what you need today. So if Steve walks into this building, 2 years from now, when we're all done, if we started today, and got it all approved and put it out to bid and got the contractor to build it, it's gonna be, 12 to 24 months before he walks in the door. And at that point, the smaller building here might not even be big enough. This would meet your needs well with a little bit of growth. When we look at master planning for expansion, we usually look at some type of different programmatic change. So we have a lot of cases, I have one right now, one in Kentucky, for example, where we've got a phase one, which looks a lot like this. And phase two is a sheltered medicine clinic, you know, that'll have public veterinary and, you know, low cost spay and neuter and all that. Right now, they can't afford it. So that, what I'm getting at is that's a good, it's a good planning tool because they can find those services elsewhere today. And if they have that money in 5 years, and yes, it's gonna cost more, they can add that program, or they can decide not to. Now, we always try to upsize things like utility mains, so that if population dictates that 5 years from now, you call me up and you say, wow, we need another kennel, we're gonna be set up to add a kennel to it. I mean, it would have to be constructed as a separate building, but attached, you know?
And that was during our initial design stuff, when we talked about all the concepts have the expansion in mind. We don't wanna have to come back, even in 20 years, we don't wanna have to come back and find a whole new location. You've got the property, you've got the power, the water, and the sewer there. So all of our concepts and whatever design we come up with, we'll have the capability to add on to for sure. And have that in mind as we're building.
Yeah, well, you know, again, this was, at this stage, we do a conceptual design that kind of proves out the program. But our next step in construction documents would be to do some master planning so that we can illustrate that.
One other thing that I can tell you is that we're not doing anything extraordinary. We're not coming up with any new way of doing things. We're doing the basic industry standards. And I know we included cats in here. That is, should the need arise, that is, I'm not trying to get into a new business, that's for sure. But this is just to provide the service that we're providing now. It's really all that we're looking to do. I'm not looking to expand. I'm not looking to add a new type of service or to start doing some new great thing. This is to do what we're doing now. It's really all I'm asking for.
Also, to your point about the cats, we added a cat room at Steve's request that is sized for 10 cats, but as designed, it will be a flexible animal room. In fact, we're gonna put Steve's existing cages in there right now. It could be used for cats or small dogs, so,
Yeah.
or it could be used for a meet and greet room.
Yeah.
It's,
Will we get a hard number? I guess this would be after we get the bids and stuff, but is it, of course, larger is better, but it's also 3.5 million to $5 million cost. That's a huge range.
So I've not done a project like this, and I don't know how to put one out to get started. And it was a question that I had initially, and I've asked around a little bit. Do we take this number, this 4.2 plus 15%, and say that needs to be your maximum budget? Let's design one and go from there. Go ahead and purchase the building and move forward, or do we say let's purchase the building and then let's do a little more design work and get an exact number? I don't know how you get an exact number without putting it out to bid, so I need some direction.
well,
Y'all have built the only buildings I
Yeah,
have.
I wonder if Aaron can weigh in here, cause you've been through the bid process for other projects and kind of, you know,
Yeah,
what
I
are you
mean,
thinking?
We used to just get the architects to estimate a cost per square foot, and as the gentleman alluded to earlier, there was a period of time that worked pretty well. And then all of a sudden, estimated cost per square foot didn't work well at all, because what was coming back was ridiculously different from what was being estimated. So if you want a real cost, the only thing you can really do is take this thing out to bid, and then you'll have typically a 60 to 90-day period in that bid document that will allow you to go on through the process and make a decision about yes or no. That's the only way you're gonna get a real number. Now, if you're comfortable with not to exceed, so if you were to say, you know what, we're gonna put $5 million on this project, not to exceed 5 million, then basically you could go out to bid. If it comes back over 5 million, then you know you've got to design down. I mean, that's the only two ways you've got to go. You can either basically set we're not gonna spend more than this, and then if the bid comes back more than that, you can drop it down, or you can go out to bid and then make your decision about whether or not you're gonna go forward.
There is one other thing we can do, and we have been doing it in the last 3 years, and that is to hire a contractor for what's called pre-construction services. And now in some municipalities, if a contractor participates in the pre-construction services, they're not allowed to bid on the project, on the larger project. So that can dissuade some people from doing it. I actually don't like that because I want the contractor to have some skin in the game, you know, that they might be able to get the job. And what we do is, we'd have more than this, but not, you know, we would start by, you would hire a contractor for pre-construction services, or we could add it, you know, as a subcontractor to us. And this person would take a look at our conceptual design. We usually do a narrative, so we'll describe pretty detailed, like what mechanical equipment would be and what plumbing equipment, what type of flooring, finishes, concrete work. And we'll get what's called a schematic design level of interiors, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. And we let that person give us a price, and it's gonna be more accurate than my price. And then, because these people will go out and talk to subs, you know, they'll talk to a major subcontractor, they'll talk to a subcontractor, they'll start narrowing it down. Usually we hire them to do 3 of these. So we do one at schematic design very early, and then we have them refine it at about what we call 50% plans. And then we have them do a very tight number at maybe 75% plans. And at that point, they have a lot of detail. And so they're refining that number. And if you, I mean, we do it all the time in nonprofits because we don't have a competitive bidding requirement. And if we find the right contractor, then that works really well because the contractor's already identified the subs, they've committed to pricing, we know what it is. And by the way, when we hire people for pre-construction services, they're not guaranteed the job. We never do that. We always say, this is what you're hired for right now. It might be $10,000 or $20,000. Sometimes the contractors will have a clause in there where they'll charge us for the services, but if they're hired to build the building, they'll waive the pre-construction services. So
Was 10 to 20,000?
that's typically what we see, yeah. It might be a little less for this. This is, I mean, 10 to 20,000 is, I think Hannah's, my project manager hired a company to do it for 18 for that 44,000 square foot Humane Society in Iowa.
Smaller.
This is considerably smaller, so it might be less.
When you say pre-construction services, that's to give us all the paperwork, plans and everything that we could send it out for bid.
No, that,
Okay,
we do the plans.
okay. What cost, what is that gonna cost us?
The plans are, I did an estimate here. Typically, we're about 9 to 10% of construction, but we charge on a square foot basis. And actually, we're a little bit less than that on this one.
So for this building, what would that be?
So for the new building, for this one I said was at 2.9, and I'm figuring about 210,000. But just to clarify your question though, the pre-construction services are basically we're hiring somebody to do cost estimating. That's what that is. And you could go out and hire somebody to do that. It just alleviates you from, you know, we don't want you to hire us and we do a complete set of plans all the way to 100% before a contractor even looks at it. And the pre-construction services option is a way of having a contractor to look at it earlier, you know, several times during design, while we're designing it.
I kind of like that idea myself. If you have an idea on how much it's gonna cost us.
Yeah, now, we will, obviously, if they're going to be able to bid on the project, we will have to pay them. Whether or not we can waive it on the back end or not, I don't even know. I guess they can factor that into their bid, I guess.
Since you could put that in there probably, couldn't you?
Right, well, I mean,
Yeah,
go back to kind of the questions that arose for the courthouse last summer, where the way we normally do construction is go ahead and sign a contract and then turn around and once we have everything put together, then you bid it out, then you take the lowest bidder and you move forward.
Right.
We had an issue last summer trying to figure out funding for a courthouse that we did that with. And there was questions about possibly funding the total project, but what wasn't clear to the county commission was that because the contract was signed with the plans included, and those plans had already been drawn, that we owed about $3 million on the project, even if we didn't move forward. And again, I think there was just some confusion, so I think that's where these questions are coming from, is we're trying to be transparent up front from the get-go, is that if we move forward from here, then, you know, our commitment is at least the 210 for the plans, then potentially,
210 was just the new building, by the way.
okay,
The existing building, I would recommend at this stage you just carry about 10% of construction cost.
okay,
And I'll detail, I have those numbers in my calculation. Okay, it's hard, you know, like with the existing building, we don't exactly know yet what the scope of work is.
right,
So, I'd have to figure that out. The new building is a little more predictable, so I know what we have to do to make that work.
Where, a couple of questions. These things here,
Yep.
is that in the cost?
Yes.
Okay, is there a cheaper way of doing that?
Not well. There's there's 4 or 5 companies in the United States that make really good quality dog kennels, and that's our go-to for modular systems. They guarantee their work and they're competitive with each other, and my project manager will go out and get prices from all of them for this. You know, if we do your project, she's going to get prices from them. We'll send the plans to them and we'll find out what it is. And
So
that's
it's
even,
I understand modular is probably the best way to go, but there's other possibilities, aren't there?
the only other possibility is to build concrete block separator. You know, actually build
You
them.
wouldn't get the number of dogs in there if you did that.
It costs, right, it takes up more space, and also at the end of the day, I've done it both ways. It doesn't save any money.
Okay.
Okay, if you build it, the concrete work is a lot more complicated. You still have to buy a cage door for the front.
You can either change it either. We've got those now, and I don't like it.
Noise reduction that you mentioned a while ago, for walls and ceiling. Where in this would that be going?
So first of all, on the ceilings, we have a number of products that we specify that are ceiling tile systems that are highly absorptive but also impervious to moisture. so they don't buckle over time, and they can handle, you know, especially in an environment like the dog kennels.
But we're not talking about the original building.
Yeah, I think the original, I mean, there are gonna be animals in here, there are gonna be animals in here, there are gonna be animals in here. And there's often animals elsewhere. So at least in the animal areas, I would wanna put a better quality ceiling tile in. And then also probably do some, like in this room echoes right now if you stand in and talk. We'd probably do some perimeter noise control.
What is that wall? I can't read it. I mean, what is that room?
That's the multi-purpose room.
That's the room that was the
Auditorium.
commission meeting room.
Commission chamber.
And what would it be used for?
So it
By
would be
you.
it would be an all-purpose room, or we've termed it multi-purpose room or emergency room. So on a day-to-day basis, it could be used for dog training and evaluation. It could be used for a classroom environment where we had a class with employees or with the public. It could be used, let's say we did a hoarding case and we had to bring in 50 dogs and we need a spot to put them. We could set up temporary kennels in there and house those dogs in there for a short period of time. So it's a little bit of everything. If you guys decided you wanted to have a public meeting there for something, it could be used for that. It has a warming room. They have a kitchen in there now, but we'll cut that down. And it has public restrooms, and it can be walled off from the rest of the building. We're largely not gonna change that. We're just gonna be able to use that for any space that we need.
So we would make that room what we call animal friendly in my office, so it would have, it's got if you've seen it, the floor is peeling up in there. We'd have the contractor remove that floor, put in an epoxy floor, COVID up the walls, would have a dedicated HVAC system, we'd have cleaning systems in there, so you could wash it down. So it would be designed to be used for animals or people.
Does anybody else have any questions about the building itself or the construction of the building?
You know,
We'll get somebody in a minute, but-
I'm glad we got somebody that does this for a living, just because all the issues, the stuff written in there, I toured dealing with the city, you know, Murfreesboro, several places. The central unit's really, really important, and you don't want stuff that absorbs
Yeah.
the smell, because the smell can be terrible for employees and people coming in.
And what you see when you go into these places now, I took Miss Tina with me not long ago, and we went to Williamson County and looked at a program that volunteers are doing, where we walked around in their facility. And when you walk through an area like this, it's full of dogs, and there's no smell, and there's no sound. It's amazing. The dogs were not stimulated, they weren't barking and going crazy, because they can't see anybody else. They can't see what's going on, and the programs are doing, that we're doing now, wear them out. So most of them just taking a nap anyways. And so, it's just a really nice, inviting environment to be in, and it's much more healthy, much more healthy. You know, we struggle every day with cleaning, and we have poor ventilation, and we have aging air conditioning units, and it's tough. Some mornings in there are pretty rank, and so this eliminates a lot of that, and it's,
Well, and it's much more friendly for adoptions.
Absolutely.
And because people can actually go in and, you know, you say, well, I want to see Fido. Well, Fido might not match the personality,
yeah.
but you know, there's another dog next to it, and they're not seeing that now because they can't go back there.
Yeah.
So I think your adoption rate is,
Oh, I think location will make a
Oh.
big difference with the
yeah,
adoption rate.
absolutely.
But you know, adoptions, they are an avenue for us to provide more services to folks.
Yep.
And so we're able to do more for people in the county if we can do more adoptions. And so without getting bigger, we do more of those type of things, and we try to keep it, you know, at a respectable size.
You got any thoughts on funding options or?
I think kind of, you know, what we've been thinking about primarily is capital projects. Your only other option would be to do something like a capital outlay note to pay it over time. I think you probably have enough money in capital projects. Looking today, we're carrying somewhere around 15 million in fund balance, something like that. looking at the way the revenues are coming in and the expenditures are going out, it looks like we're, you know, nothing changes, we're gonna be in pretty good shape this year as far as what we budgeted. So, depending on exactly how much we're talking about, I know, with the smaller building, it looks like somewhere to the tune of 4.5 million, something like that.
4.8,
0.8, so we're getting to 5 on that one and 6 then on the bigger one.
5.7.
That's total project.
Right.
Yeah, the purchase plus the, new building and renovation of the old.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know which one everybody's desire to do is, but I think either one of them out of capital projects, I probably wouldn't advise doing anything else out of capital projects in the near future after this. I'd probably wanna let it settle and see what happens with adequate facilities tax and some other things, but, you could do it out of capital projects if that's what you desire to do. Otherwise, my recommendation would be a capital outlay note, which would be 3 years. You could extend it out to 6 or 9 if you needed to, but you do wind up paying some interest that way.
And I think we kind of keep in mind too that this 1.5 that we're buying this building, as much as roads is not exactly within our, you know, it's not within the general fund, obviously, but we really kind of are doing 1.5 almost in a county to county transfer. If that makes sense, because it's gonna go, that 1.5 million will go from the county to county roads. So, just another thing to think
Have
about.
we talked to them to see if we could do maybe payments? And
I'm-
just pay cash for that part?
We
you
haven't
know, over
talked,
so many
we
years,
haven't talked to them about it, but I feel like, and
do 3 years or something?
I
yeah,
wondered about that too.
with caution, I feel like they would be, you know, amenable to that, but I don't know that for a fact without talking to
I
them.
mean, I wouldn't mind paying for the building up front and then do the rest of it with capital outlay.
You know?
We could split it.
Yeah.
That'd make it easier to swallow as far as the building, if we done, either do the 3 years at 500,000 each year, or do 1.5 up front.
Mhm.
It'd make a lot more palatable for,
Mhm.
to get the money, cause I'd rather do the larger one if possible, but I'm also,
I would too. I'd rather go ahead and just do it and do it right. So we don't come back 5 or 10 years from now and say, okay, well, we just did this and now we gotta do it again. I'd rather build for some growth.
What are we voting on tonight?
Well, I think there's a couple different things we could do. I mean, we could vote on the possibility, well, we could pitch the 5.7 straight over to budget with some suggestions of, you know, buying the 1.5 and then capital outlays. We could vote to move forward with the plans and the pre-construction. I'd rather go ahead and try to push forward with the large building and go that way, but what do you guys think?
I don't mind going for the large building at all. I think that's the, quite frankly, it would be the most economical thing to do in the long run.
Right.
But I'm just thinking about questions that's gonna come out of budget and maybe other places. It kind of hinged on some of the things I was asking this while ago, because if we set this thing out for bid ourselves, we're gonna have something to go out. Something for people to look at, to be able to do the bids. And they're gonna wanna know how much that's gonna cost us.
Right.
But, you know, and then, and if I understand correctly, if y'all were hired to build the building, that would go away, or not?
No, we don't build the building.
Okay,
I'm a licensed engineer
Okay.
in Tennessee. We only do the the plans and
You
specifications.
talk about the pre-construction, sometimes they absorb that, right?
Yeah.
The
maybe
yeah,
that's
if
what
you
I
hired a
heard.
contractor to do cost estimating, pre-construction services, they will often have a clause where they will waive it if they end up getting the job, but I can't guarantee that. And also, in a municipal scenario, I think you alluded to it a minute ago, that might be sticky anyway, you know? You might wanna just, you know, and we don't mind helping you with that. Hannah in my office does this all the time. She'll call contractors and get prices, or we'll send out a request for proposals for pre-construction services. And you get a fee, and you pay it, and then they can bid on the job ultimately if they want to. And if they wanna somehow credit you that amount in their final number, they could do that.
Do
as
we have
part of their bid.
anybody in county government that can do any of it? Especially in the original building, not the new building.
Yes, and we have talked with Robert, we met with Robert today and we talked about it. I don't want to commit completely to them, but the wall's gotta be painted. The demolition that's gotta be done. Some of the basic things in here, 100%, and he's prepared to do on day one. The floor, depending on what we do or how we decide to do this, is one of the kind of arguments back and forth we had, is I said, let us do this. Let us do the getting the walls painted, getting a contractor to do the epoxy floor and do some of those kind of things. And let's design the building more as a building for an addition or a separate building here for these guys to do, and then this building here for us to do. The issue that we had here is that we need to replace the heat and air, and it needs to be replaced with the type of things he's talking about. Also, the electrical system needs to be upgraded in this building to 440, which is there. We just have to do that, but that would be part of this project. So there would be some crossover here of the work they were doing with the work we're doing. I think we can work some more of that out.
Sure.
But honestly, his plane landed this afternoon and we did all this just
Yeah.
prior to coming. This last price thing was done literally while we were sitting here in this room. So we haven't been able to do that. There's some things in here that me and him are gonna discuss that I actually want a little different.
Oh, yeah, this is by no means final.
Right, and so
Just putting the quantity on there.
I've not built a building like this, but my thought is, and I've researched a long time about picking this guy right here. I feel pretty comfortable, and I know he's was hesitant at saying 4.2 plus or minus 15, and he really stressed the 15%. I feel comfortable that if you said, do not exceed $5 million on this project, that we could come back and do that. I feel comfortable that we can do that without doing the process of the pre-construction bid and all that stuff. And I even think we would come in at less than that. There's no way to guarantee it. I can't sit right here and say that. That's why he was saying, you know, the plus or minus is really important. But if we did the 4.2 and the plus 15, and we said, that's the maximum, you cannot go over that no matter what, I just feel really confident that we won't.
I'm glad you do.
Well, I mean, am I wrong?
Well, listen, in a lot of our municipal projects, maybe close to all of them, that's exactly what happens.
Right.
They come to us and they say, long before we've done any programming, they come to us and say, here's the money. That's what you have, work with it. And so first of all, we have to work it backwards. And, you know, that might mean, you know, maybe we don't have 34, maybe we have 32 kennels, you know, or something, you know.
And so we land somewhere between here and
Potentially. But then we still have to put it out to bid. Contractors come back. If the low bid contractor is higher than we expected, we gotta go back again.
So what happens if you set a price like that and then somewhere during the initial process, the bids come back and you go, we were wrong, and it's gonna cost 5.2.
Well, what we do is, first of all, if you said to us, you have $5 million and not a penny more, we're gonna build a contingency in, first and foremost. We're gonna design something less than that. We might still wanna get some cost estimating out of a contractor at least once, just to get an idea of, a big part of the problem is, like you mentioned to me today, there's a lot of development here in Wilson County going on. And what that means is that contractors are busy. And this is maybe not a priority for them. It's not a huge job. And, you know, like you said, we may have to go out and invite people we know to bid this job. And, you know, it's hard. Most general contractors have their favorite set of subcontractors, and that's how it works. You know, we can't just go out blindly and.
I think where we are, and Mike can, hopefully correct me where I'm wrong, but I think where we are is basically, we allocated, or the budget committee and county commission allocated a certain amount of money for you to do what you've done to this point.
Right.
Now, all you guys can do is say, we like this, we wanna move forward to it. Somebody's gonna have to make the same pitch to the budget committee in terms of, are you willing to commit whatever the overall design fee will
Yeah.
be?
And I'll work that up, so we
So
have.
they'll have to first commit to the overall design fee, and then they'll have to decide whether they like the less expensive or the more expensive or the flat fee version. You guys can recommend whatever you want to going up. But basically, I think somebody's gotta make this same pitch to the budget committee. I think all this committee can really do is send forward a recommendation that we like the 5.7 million version, and
I've got a question.
Mhm.
Okay, so I know that obviously we have to bid out lots of things.
Mhm.
Professional services is one of those things where we have a little bit of leeway, but I know
Sure.
there's a cap at professional services. Do you know what that cap is?
no, in fact, if there is a cap, we've probably blown past it many times.
Oh, good, I feel much better.
Okay, all right. I thought there was, but
No,
I
I
could be
don't-
completely wrong.
I
so,
don't
okay.
believe there is a cap on professional services. Basically, when it comes to architects, engineers, accountants,
Gotcha.
lawyers,
Okay,
we
if there's
pay
not a
them.
cap,
There's,
then
there's no cap.
it may be a grant standard that I'm thinking,
Could be.
which would be, that wouldn't apply
Well, no, there
here at
was
all.
on sole source, not sole source, there was on federal, in federal there is.
That's what I'm thinking.
There's-
Okay,
Yeah.
so
We're
take it
still
off the
gonna hold
table.
you
There's not a,
Yeah.
not a cap. So, okay, so with that in
And I
mind,
am a little worried about it.
I'm gonna make a motion to, I'll make a motion to recommend to the budget committee. Wendell, does that,
That's all you can do.
okay, I just wanted to double check, is Wendell's chair of budget, I wanted to double check that before I
Okay.
said it.
This
Okay.
man knows more than I do. He's behind you.
Okay,
I don't know about how much veracity there is to that. I like my buddy, Mr. Morrow. I'm just listening. I got in late on the,
okay,
y'all talk buddy.
okay, so here's what,
Still
I-
some zeros. I
okay. So I'd like to make a motion to recommend to the budget committee that we move forward with the large building plan. And we go ahead and purchase the road commission building at 1.5 million using capital projects and commit to the, design fees for, and, you know, professional service fees for the design fees and the pre-construction. So that way we can go ahead and get to the bid process and then hopefully move forward at that point with potentially a capital outlay note to cover that cost at no more than $5 million.
Right now, it's
I mean, I don't know.
four
if we
point
can
two
even- Right,
with 15% either plus or negative.
yeah, at no more than 4.5.
That's like what, 8? That'd be what, 8.2?
Yeah, I don't even know if we even need to go that
4.8.
high.
4.8 would be the 600,000.
Did somebody write this down what I just said? Cause I didn't, so, for my motion, but does that, Yeah,
What's 4.2 plus 15? Right.
You said plus or minus six
Well, the
hundred
four
thousand.
point two million,
Yeah, I think so.
the
Like
5.7
4.8,
you're mentioning
4.8,
includes the current
Mine was
purchase,
5.
right?
right, includes the current building,
Includes buying the building, the
Right.
5.7, it's not 5.7 plus buy the building.
correct.
Okay, I'm just making sure my mind is
Yeah.
clear.
Okay, so let me go back, so
I don't think that.
recommend
covers it.
so recommend to the budget committee
He said 4.2.
that we move forward with the plans for the larger building.
I do have a question for you.
Yeah,
Really.
yeah,
I know you said you're gonna go back and concrete the numbers.
Yeah,
Do we need to wait before we forward this
think
to
you
budget
should.
until we get all the, okay? Let's
Yeah.
just hold off
Okay.
on putting
give
it
me
to the
a few
budget
days and.
until we get the exact numbers back, cause he could come back and say it's gonna be 6 million, or he could come back and say, well, it's more towards 4.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident of what I did, but I would like to, tighten it up a little bit. I wanna look at what the scope of work is likely for the existing building, which, as Steve said, I did in 5 minutes
When
today.
you come up with your more solid numbers, can you give us a division between the old and the new?
Yes, I already started that on the spreadsheet, separating the two out.
okay. Well, if we wait then, cause budget meets Thursday,
Okay,
so that's why I was trying to figure if we wanted to solidify at least something this
Well,
evening,
We
but.
go ahead, go ahead and move forward on purchasing the land,
I think A and B, I think A and B of what she said is as far as we need to go, in my opinion, which is 1.5 million to purchase the building and the design fees when he gives us whatever that number is. And at that point in time, in my opinion, it goes out to bid, and we come back and we ask for the money of.
That's basically where I was going.
Yeah.
yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's where I was going. I was just
Yeah.
trying to figure out a way to be able to, if we need to
Okay.
put anything about that second
But we
piece.
don't know what that design fee number is.
He's
Not
gonna,
yet,
he's gonna
but
get
he'll
us
get
the
it to us.
concrete number, right?
so when are they meeting? What's today?
Today's
Next
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
They meet
Tuesday, so
Thursday
you need
night.
that by Thursday.
Well.
Could
we'll
we
have to vote on
say-
it, right? Don't y'all have to vote on it?
Well,
Okay, I know this is shooting high compared to where you were for plans and then pre-construction, but could you, and again, this is a high number, but I'm trying to get us a number. If we said design fees no more than 300,000,
Let me ask you this, do you want me to include civil and structural in that? Because we would need that.
That would be part of the local
Right.
process.
That would be-
So we would hire a local person, so I would not include that in there unless we need them to draw a
We do.
foundation print ahead of time. Okay, well then you would need to include
you'd
that.
need
Yeah,
everything.
all right, so, boy, this is a tough crowd.
Sorry.
If I got that to you by Thursday morning, would that work?
yeah, the only thing is the committee needs to approve probably something and not to exceed, maybe.
That's where I was trying to get.
That's where we're trying to get to, I think, yeah.
I'm hesitant to commit to that tonight without,
Sure.
I understand.
sitting back down and really scoping out the project and defining it.
Animal control can always meet again after budget and, approve. Mike has,
Is this on the agenda for Thursday night at budget?
How about if
What
I
y'all about to vote out?
no, sir.
And you know what's gonna happen.
how about I recess this? Can I recess this meeting until Thursday?
Well, that's what,
You can, but still doesn't get it on the budget committee agenda for Thursday.
yeah.
And we've got a gentleman that's watching everything we do on the agenda.
And that's what, you and I haven't had a chance to speak directly, but that's an issue that I have with every single month with what happens with budget.
It is, and very briefly, the way we're going to fix that is over time. Just train
Yeah.
people that, hey, if you want to consider it, you gotta get it done. We used to do it by the Friday before the Thursday meeting.
Right.
Everybody has to get, now we've got to where we bunch all our meetings up in about 72 hours.
Right.
And it just doesn't fit the number.
On the bright side, I don't know of any reason why 30 days puts a crimp in this project. Unless, I mean, I know we'd rather go ahead and send it forward, but I don't,
It also gives him more time too, to,
Yeah,
instead of being rushed and get into accurate numbers.
Yeah, I would rather be able to finish my report and detail everything that needs to be done. And give you a more detailed spreadsheet of where I think the costs are for the building.
Yeah.
And then from that, I can develop our fees for doing the design work more accurately.
Yep.
And I think, I do agree, I think that's really necessary.
Aaron, is it on the budget agenda about the purchase of the building? Is that something that they go ahead and do? I don't, do you remember something?
That'd be considered old business.
The only thing I put on the agenda was what I knew was coming from education. They never tell me what's gonna be on their agendas.
I just got an email from Diane.
We send out, we send out an agenda ourselves, which we may not, but we should include her on, but that agenda,
Yeah, not,
up till now, that agenda
This
changes
is a budget agenda.
from, we send out like a preliminary agenda on Monday, and by the time we hit Thursday,
I don't get anything from them.
they don't look anything alike.
Is that on
Yeah,
there?
and I'm
No,
sitting here
nothing's
thinking,
agenda, that's just numbers.
maybe assisting this gentleman here,
Oh, there's your agenda.
if you go through this tonight, send on up a recommendation, I heard all kinds of figures, but the last figure I heard was $5.7 million, and it's not on the agenda.
Yeah.
We're gonna get slammed by this one individual to say,
Oh,
I
that's not gonna
spent
be
a lot of money and it wasn't on the agenda.
This is gonna be under 2 million for the purchase of land and the other, but we wanna wait on that. But yeah, it's not, the land's not on Thursday night either.
I
And then
didn't
the
think it
building's
was.
not on it at all.
You need to
Okay.
safely, I think, go tomorrow.
Yeah.
But now the road commission agenda Thursday is, they've got an agenda item to sell the building, which I assume is true.
That would be
I mean,
nice.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I would say this, I am comfortable saying tonight that I will recommend buying the building. It is in better condition than I expected, it is suitable for this purpose, I like the location a lot, it's in good shape. Yeah, so, I mean, in my report, I am going to recommend buying the building.
Do you think, Mike, if this committee decided that we wanted to recommend purchasing the building, if Sandra could amend the budget agenda tonight?
It's too late.
Okay,
It's supposed to be out more than 48 hours.
okay, that's why that was my question.
Yeah. Well, this is a learning process for,
All of us.
Yes,
And it's not something we asked for. The legislature thrust this upon us, but we had a pretty good system working here.
Yeah.
Now we've had to adjust.
right,
And we wanna make sure we do what's right too.
Yeah,
right.
oh, absolutely.
yeah, it's just throwing, like I say, from what everybody is accustomed to what we're moving to, there's gonna be a whole lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth.
Yep.
So,
Okay, so I guess right now, to go from here, and to wait for your report, and then reconvene after we get his report. And then
Thank
we
you for
could-
coming.
Could
That
I suggest
sounds-
this, Lauren?
Yes, sir.
You know you want to buy the building. I mean,
Right,
You can go ahead and make the recommendation tonight to buy the building. It just doesn't show up until March at the budget committee. But you've already got that done.
okay,
Make a motion to purchase
Yeah.
it.
go for it, you wanna do it?
Okay, you started with a motion.
Okay, so,
Take it off.
yeah, so void my motion, I didn't get a second, so it died, for lack of a second. So, alright, William, you wanna do this one?
Make a motion to purchase the property and building, from the road commission
For 1.5 million.
for $700,000.
And I second that.
Okay. Do we need to say where from, or is, I guess budget will take care of that part?
I mean, we'll recommend it from capital projects, that's what you said.
Okay, are all in favor? Alright,
The other reason I said that, Lauren, is because this gentleman's gonna be doing a lot of work to get y'all a number. And he needs to know that y'all serious about buying the building.
I agree, like I said, that's why I was trying to figure out how we move forward, following the rules and being able to bid and not falling into what we fell into last summer with the court building and so on, so, okay.
It's also a key component if for some reason that transfer, that property didn't go through,
Right.
that completely changes our animal sheltering project.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. We
So-
start from score one, so yes.
So we're gonna meet again like in 2 weeks, or when?
It's not a
What do
rush
we-
now, we don't.
Well, what are we thinking? Because, okay, so if, all right, so we just made a motion to
72
recommend.
hours before, right?
Well, let me ask this question. So we just made a motion to recommend purchasing the building. So to be able to do that, the next thing we need, because I think road commission already said that they would sell it to us for 1.5, right? So I think we've already got that side of the equation. So the next step is budget. So,
I would start with, I don't know what date the budget committee meeting is in March, we'll back.
March sixth,
Would
March sixth.
March sixth, so work back from that to have your meeting early enough to where.
At least
you pass
It's just the
it,
week
we
before.
on-
Right, yeah. yeah.
I
Okay,
do last week, February.
okay. Yeah, no, we have to
It's a
just
short
do this,
month,
so.
remember that.
Right, okay, do we wanna try to set a meeting, and then at that February meeting, then we should have your plans, so we could then turn around and make
This is the-
further decisions to
Yeah.
add to this purchase decision that'll go to budget all on March sixth. Does that sound,
Is there anything going
Reasonable.
on, Sandra, is anything going on February the 20th?
Not yet.
Yeah, I
Thursday.
think the sooner the better.
Will that give you enough time?
Maybe
2
Yes.
weeks?
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah,
yeah.
it does.
okay,
Yeah.
do you guys wanna meet at 5
It's 2 weeks.
on February 20th?
February 20th.
Does that work for everybody? 5 o'clock at February 20th? Okay. Okay. And then the agenda for that will be to continue this conversation and move forward on decisions to be able to actually carry along with the 1.5 to budget on March 6th.
Let me make a suggestion also, you need to get that agenda to her this week, because she's gonna be gone next week.
That's right.
So,
Okay.
I'll take care of it.
All right. Well, I don't know if you can take it from what I just said or not, but I'll send you something. So, okay,
So 5 PM on the 20th.
5 PM on the 20th. Okay. Does anybody have anything else?
Make a motion to adjourn.
All right.
Second?
You're adjourned. Thank you.